Before dawn, the river lay silent, dark, still. On the far bank, a narrow strip of land held by Finnish infantry pressed against the Syväri River like a clenched fist. There was nowhere to fall back. No second line. No depth. Behind them was water. Ahead of them were tanks. What happened here in October 1941 was not a grand offensive or a sweeping victory. It was a test of whether a thin bridgehead, already known to the enemy, could survive a direct armored assault. This is the story of the Finnish Bridgehead under tank attack at Syväri. By the autumn of 1941, the continuation war had entered a new phase. Finnish forces, advancing alongside Germany's broader campaign against the Soviet Union, had pushed deep into eastern Karelia. Rivers that once marked distant frontiers now became new front lines. One of those rivers was the Syväri, wide, slow-moving, and bordered by dense forest. The Syväri formed a natural defensive barrier. Control of crossings along it meant control of movement, supply, and pressure on the enemy. For the Finns, holding even a small bridgehead on the far side of the river forced the Soviets to remain tied down, unable to reorganize freely. But bridgeheads are dangerous by nature. They attract attention. They invite counterattack. And once discovered, they become targets. In the first days of October, a Finnish bridgehead was holding near a hydroelectric power station along the Syväri. The position was narrow and exposed, pressed hard between the river at its back and Soviet-controlled forest ahead. On October 1st, responsibility for the sector changed hands. A battalion from Infantry Regiment 44 took over the line, relieving troops that had carried out the original assault weeks earlier. The task now was no longer to advance, but to endure. Major Kurt Tira assumed command of the battalion at the bridgehead. From the moment he arrived, the situation felt wrong. The first night brought warning signs. From beyond the tree line, sounds drifted across the riverbank. Engines, tracks, the heavy metallic clank of armored movement, muffled by distance but unmistakable in rhythm. This was not routine traffic. It was preparation. Tira listened through the night, stepping out of cover, orienting himself by sound alone. By instinct, he moved his forward command post closer to the front line, wanting eyes and ears as near to the danger as possible. Enemy harassing fire soon followed. Sporadic bursts, mortar rounds probing for range. Several field telephone lines were cut, isolating sections of the defense. The bridgehead was being tested. Just after 1 a.m, confirmation arrived. Finnish signals intelligence intercepted a Soviet radio transmission. The message was blunt and precise. A reinforced Soviet infantry regiment, supported by tanks and artillery, had been ordered to attack at dawn. The objective was clear: destroy the Finnish bridgehead and silence the mortar positions near the power station. There was no exaggeration, no ambiguity. The Soviets knew how many men were holding the position. They knew where the guns were, and they believed the bridgehead could be erased in a single coordinated blow. Tira took stock of what he had: a thin infantry line, limited ammunition, no reserves. Against armor, he had 4 37mm anti-tank guns, already outdated against the newest Soviet tanks. They were effective at close range, under perfect conditions. The bridgehead allowed no perfect conditions. Still, there was no talk of withdrawal. Retreat across the river under fire would be suicide. The only option was to hold. Before first light on October 2nd, the attack began. Soviet artillery opened fire across the bridgehead. Shells crashed into defensive positions, throwing earth and splinters into the air. Trenches collapsed. Communication vanished. Men pressed themselves into ground as the earth heaved beneath them. As the barrage lifted, shapes emerged from the smoke. Tanks, T-34s rolled forward toward the finish line, engines roaring, guns firing on the move. Their silhouettes loomed through the mist, dark and angular, immune to rifle fire. The anti-tank guns opened fire at close range. Shells struck armor and bounced away. Sparks flashed. Steel rang. The tanks did not stop. Several armored vehicles pushed past the foremost trenches and broke through into the rear of the bridgehead. Their turrets swept side to side, searching for targets. For a moment, the position teetered on the edge of collapse. Then something became clear. The Soviet infantry was not with them. Delayed by terrain and fire, the foot soldiers lagged behind, still crossing open ground as the tanks surged ahead alone. It was a fatal separation. Major Tira saw the opportunity instantly. As the tanks turned back toward the Finnish line, attempting to rejoin their infantry, a small group of Finnish soldiers moved forward from cover. They carried satchel charges and anti-tank mines. They did not run. They waited. As the tanks thundered closer, the men remained motionless in shallow foxholes, letting the engines pass almost over them. When the moment came, they surged forward at point-blank range. Explosions tore into tracks. Mines detonated beneath steel. Tanks shuddered, stopped, burned. At the same time, Finnish riflemen and machine gun crews sealed the gaps in the line. When the Soviet infantry finally reached the bridgehead, they were met by overlapping fire from prepared positions. Caught in the open, without armored support, the assault faltered. What had been planned as a decisive strike dissolved into confusion. By midday, the bridgehead still held. Smoke drifted across the river. Disabled vehicles burned quietly. The ground was scarred but unbroken. The attack had failed. Not because the bridgehead was strong, but because it had not collapsed when it mattered most. In the weeks that followed, fighting along the Syväri gradually subsided. Both sides dug in, preparing for winter. The Finnish defenders reinforced their positions, improving cover and fields of fire. Infantry Regiment 44 would hold the hydroelectric station sector for nearly 4 months. Only in late January 1942 did they rotate out, handing the frozen line to another unit and withdrawing to rest. The bridgehead at Syväri was never meant to be permanent. It did not change the course of the war on its own, but it revealed something important. That even in an era of tanks and mass firepower, discipline, timing, and nerve could still decide the outcome of a battle. At Syväri, the line held, not because it was impossible to break, but because it refused to break at the critical moment. And sometimes in history that is enough.